They all laughed at the poor dishwasher, but her unbelievable secret changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The day I stood there, hands trembling, surrounded by the clattering plates and mocking voices. The kitchen was sweltering, steam rising and swirling like whispers of judgment. I was invisible to them, just a shadow with a scrubbing brush in one hand and a broken heart in the other, but what they didn't know, what they never bothered to see, was that I was more than just a dishwasher. My family had fallen apart years ago, each piece crumbling under the weight of expectations and silence. I had fought back the pain, keeping it buried deep like the secrets I carried. My hands, raw and chapped, were evidence of my daily struggle. I could almost hear my mother's voice, soft and haunting, urging me to keep my head high. Every tear shed behind that sink felt like surrendering a part of myself I feared would never return. The laughter echoed around me, loud and disdainful, as the other staff put their heads together to share stories. They made fun of my shabby uniform, my worn-out shoes with holes, and the way I carried my sadness like a shield. But what they didn't know was that I had a spark, a secret that could ignite everything around me. It began on a rain-soaked evening. I stumbled upon a dusty old book in the corner of the attic, a tome filled with wonders and mysteries. I could still feel the texture of the cracked leather cover, the weight of possibilities in my palms. As I flipped through the pages, my heart raced. It spoke of ancient talents, hidden strengths, and a path only a few could tread. I had closed that book many times, afraid to share its secrets, afraid they would laugh even harder if they knew, but deep down, a flicker of hope burned. Each night, after leaving the restaurant, I pored over those texts as the world faded around me. What if I could change it all? What if the shackles of despair could be unbound? I practiced, timid and alone, shadows flickering against the walls of my little room as I whispered old incantations. Hope brushed against me like a cool breeze on a stifling afternoon. Then, just as the laughter reached a peak, I felt something shift. A flicker of warmth suffused my hands as I washed the dishes, a familiar hum coursing through me. I knew something powerful was awakening, something that could defy their ridicule and transform my life. The questions bubbled up: was I ready to embrace the impossible? Would they scorn me even more if they knew? As the last plate clattered in the sink, I took a breath, steeling myself. The room had fallen silent. I turned to look at the others, the weight of their glances heavy on my chest. They knew I was hiding something they didn't understand. Perhaps it was fear that held me back, or maybe it was the anticipation of what could happen next. I tightened my grip on the dishcloth, the fabric coarse against my fingers, as my heart raced in time with my thoughts. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next day felt charged, electric in a way that made every breath I took feel like an adventure. I walked into the kitchen with a spark in my chest, but the usual laughter and jeering felt even more oppressive. Every clattering pot and pan seemed like a drum echoing my unspoken fears. I could feel the weight of their gazes, the expectation wrapped in contempt. As I tied my apron, I caught a glimpse of myself in the tarnished metal of the prep station. The woman reflected back at me, worn, tired, yet somewhere behind the mask was the glimmer of potential. My heart raced as I remembered the book, how it had spoken of courage and transformation. What if today was the day I embraced my secret, shared it with the world? Determined to break through the suffocating atmosphere, I tried to smile at Maria, the head chef. She looked up from chopping vegetables but quickly turned back to her work, a dismissive shake of her dark curls sending any warmth I sought back into the shadows. "Get on with it, dishwasher," she snapped. "We don't have all day." Each word felt like a stone thrown in my direction, an attempt to bury me deeper. I swallowed hard, my resolve shaking. But then, a moment of unexpected kindness illuminated the room. Jamie, the new sous chef with soft eyes and a gentle demeanor, caught my glance and offered a small smile. It was subtle, but to me, it felt like an anchor amidst the storm. "Need help?" he asked quietly, moving toward me. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. "I can handle the prep here, why don't you take a bit of a break? You work too hard." His words ignited something inside, a reaction that sent warmth coursing through my veins. I hesitated, then nodded, my heart pounding not out of fear, but from budding possibility. I stepped out into the small courtyard behind the kitchen, where the air was fresher, and the laughter seemed a distant echo. As I leaned against the weathered bricks, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending change. I closed my eyes tightly, recalling the incantations I had recited in secret. I willed the energy within me to flow like a river breaking free from its constraints. With each deep breath, I imagined drawing in strength and releasing the shackles of their laughter, the derision of these so-called friends. What if I dared to manifest my truth? But my moment of clarity was shattered when I heard footsteps behind me. Maria had followed me, her expression riddled with annoyance. "What are you doing here, sulking?" she demanded, arms crossed tightly across her chest. "You think we're all going to stand around while you take a breather?" My breath caught at her words, the harshness of her tone cutting through the fragile bubble of hope I'd begun to build. Suddenly, what was a tender moment became a twisted conflict again. "I am just trying to," I started, grasping for a way to defend my existence in this chaotic sea of humanity. "Trying to what?" "To be special. You think you're going to rise above us all just because you found some dusty old book?" Her laughter rang out, sharp and unforgiving. "You really think there's a magic in you?" The word stung, resonating with the very doubts I had kept hidden, the possibility that everything I hoped for was a delusion. I turned away, choking back tears. I wasn't special, just a dishwasher, lost in a world that only acknowledged the surface. But in that moment, Jamie reappeared, his expression softening as he stepped between us. "Enough, Maria," he said, his tone firm yet kind. "We all have our struggles. We don't need to tear each other down in the process of finding ourselves." The unexpected solidarity gave me strength. I clutched the sink's edge, wanting to shout, to say I was more than they thought, that something powerful resided within me. But I couldn't. As the moments dragged on, I felt Maria retreat, but the weight of her words lingered, pressing against my chest. Jamie lingered, concern etched on his face. "Hey, it's okay," he muttered gently. "You're more capable than you realize. Just believe in yourself." But at that moment, words felt like empty vessels. I turned, backing toward the kitchen, my breath hitching. It was then that something extraordinary happened, something I never could have predicted. As I moved, a snap of energy pulsed through me, sending shivers along my fingers. The air shimmered, I grasped the dishcloth tighter as sparks danced in the corner of my vision. In that fleeting moment, I felt the truth of my hidden power, surging against the anger, the pain, the contempt. And just as soon as it came, the energy faded, leaving an eerie silence enveloping me. The room grew cold, the laughter diminishing as I processed what I had felt, yet, as I took a step back, something dropped to the floor, a small, glimmering object that rolled away from me, leaving me frozen in confusion. My heart raced as I recognized it. There, shining under the flickering lights, was a small pendant that seemed to call to me, its surface swirling with colors I had never seen before. My secret, suddenly exposed. The chatter stopped. All eyes turned toward me. The laughter had ceased, replaced by the heavy weight of curiosity and unexpected dread. I was no longer just a dishwasher, I was a catalyst. The quiet moment pulsed with potential and fear, leaving an unspoken question hanging between us all: what now? The hush in the kitchen wrapped around me as if the air had thickened with tension. The pendant lay glimmering on the cold tile floor, seemingly alive with energy that pulsed in time with the bass of my racing heartbeat. The laughter I had dreaded transformed into a different song, one of astonished whispers. Mariah's eyes widened, the scorn evaporating as she leaned forward for a better look. Others started to gather, curiosity replacing the bitterness that had festered moments earlier. I could sense their intrigue morphing into an unsettling mix of fear and excitement, as if I had opened a door to a world they had not known existed. Jamie was the first to break the silence, stepping cautiously toward me. "Is that?" He trailed off, his voice barely a whisper. He reached down, fingers hovering above the pendant as though it might bite back. I felt a ripple of energy dance in the air between us, a magnetic pull that made my skin tingle. I could barely breathe, my mind a whirlwind of doubt and terror. What did this mean? Did it signify the magic I had stared into the abyss of my longing to embrace? My heart was a pendulum swinging between fear and exhilaration. "Please," I finally managed to whisper, panic rising in my chest. "Don't touch it." The words echoed through the quiet, punctuated by the gasps that followed. The crowd hung on my words, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. I could see Mariah's intrigue pinned against her usual contempt, her brows knitting together as a flicker of doubt appeared. But I could also see her rallying her composure, determined to suppress any vulnerability that threatened her authority. "Why not?" she challenged, her voice sharper than broken glass. "What's so special about it, huh? It's just a cheap trinket." Jamie shot Maria a look that implored her to step back, an unspoken alliance forming between us in that charged moment. "No, it isn't," he said. "It feels alive." He steadied himself, taking a bold step back, sensing the weight of the room. I couldn't take my eyes off the pendant, the swirl of colors now appearing to shift with every beat of my heart. "That's," I struggled, unsure of what to say. "That's the truth." That I felt the heat of their gazes, a desperate kind of longing aching to understand. How could I explain that this was more than a pendant? How could I confess, even to myself, that it might contain the essence of the power I had always dismissed? I took a breath, the uncertainty filling the space just before I spoke. "It's a part of who I am, a legacy of sorts," I confessed, the words slipping through my lips like soft petals caught in the wind. "What kind of legacy?" Maria asked, a hint of genuine curiosity beginning to infiltrate her bravado. There was no turning back now. "One that connects me to something bigger. Something magical." My heart thundered as I echoed my truths, unveiling pieces of my heart even as the other pieces trembled in trepidation. "Yeah, right," she scoffed, but her resolve felt less fierce. "You think you can just wave a magic wand and become something better than a dishwasher?" "I don't need a wand, Maria," I snapped, instinctively rising to her provocation. "I already have something inside me." The memories of the book propelled me, the chants rising in my throat, begging to unleash their resonance. Jamie stepped closer, his unwavering support acting as a buffer between me and the storm. "If it means something to you, then it must be important," he said softly, a beacon of warmth in a sea of cold stares. "You should explore it. I think it's beautiful." Tears prickled my eyes at his kindness, but the moment shifted when I heard a low rumble of laughter, echoing from the back of the kitchen. A tall figure stepped forward, his presence commanding, smirking at the glimmering pendant that lay reflected in my tear-streaked face. It was Tom, the kitchen manager, a man whose laughter often masked the dread that churned deep within me, a man with the power to both uplift and crush. What a load of nonsense. He guffawed, loud and unrelenting. "You really think that piece of junk means anything?" "Shut up, Tom. You don't know anything." Maria shot back, her annoyance cutting through his mockery. "Let her be," Jamie interjected, his voice rising above the fray. "You don't know what it's like for her." But my heart sank at the mockery, a weight dragging me down. The laughter hung thick in the air, enveloping the kitchen like fog, and I felt my resolve crumbling. Suddenly, the pendant flared, as if responding to the turmoil brewing inside me. I took an involuntary step back, energy crackling around me, and I realized with a jolt that I was holding power far beyond my control. The laughter faded, replaced by a sudden hush as the sparks danced up my arm. "What is happening?" I gasped as the world spun wildly before me, the brightness consuming me whole. I felt lightheaded, teetering on the edge of awakening something that had been buried deep within, and then it crashed down like a wave. A blinding whirlwind of colors enveloped me, and with a burst of energy, the pendant rocketed into the air before careening down. I shut my eyes tightly, willing the storm inside to settle and hide, but in that instant, everything stilled. When I opened my eyes again, I was met with the incredulous expressions of my colleagues. The kitchen was transformed, equipment scattered haphazardly, pots overturned, and the air thick with a new tension that hinted at change. And in the midst of the chaos was the realization burning through the pendant was more than just a piece of jewelry, it was a key, unlocking something I could neither grasp nor fully understand. I stumbled back, taking in the scene, the weight of their disbelief crawling into my bones. To the others, I was still that dishwasher who had dared to dream, yet now everything was different. A cycle of acceptance and rejection churned within me, as the burden of truth weighed heavily on my chest. I had awakened something, but whether it would shatter me or set me free remained an unanswered question hovering over us all. With everyone watching, I took a shuddering breath, the pull of destiny tightening around me. Did I dare step into the light or retreat back into the shadows? The moment was fragile, but I could feel its resonance echoing through the kitchen. Who I was, who I truly was, could no longer remain hidden in the depths. And just when I thought I might own my moment, the pendant started to vibrate softly in place. A wave of energy rushed through me, shattering the whisper of hope I'd begun to build, leaving me with a jarring realization. I had no idea what would come next. The echo of my heartbeat reverberated through the silence that followed. I was at the center of a storm that had been cultivated by years of suppression, decades of hiding who I was, who I could be. The vibrant hues of the pendant settled back down, almost apologetically, a single whisper of light flickering at its core. Are you okay? Jamie stepped forward, concern slicing through the maelstrom surrounding us. His hand hovered near my arm, uncertainty mixed with urgency. For a fleeting moment, I wished for the mundane safety of a life untainted by magic. But that desire waned, replaced by a steely resolve emerging from the remnants of my fear. I don't know, I admitted, my voice cracking. I feel different. Tom's laughter still hung in the air, a crude reminder that not everyone wished to see the light. Right, because wielding some sparkly trinket makes you special, he scoffed, but the bravado in his voice flickered, revealing the cracks of uncertainty beneath his taunts. Maybe we should call it what it is, Maria said, her tone light yet underlined with something deeper. A desperate cry for attention. The familiar venom in her words twisted my insides. And yet, as I caught her gaze, I noticed something peculiar. The scorn had transformed not entirely, but a shadow of intrigue lingered there. Enough. Jamie's shout sliced through the tension, cutting Maria off like a shield. Can't you see she's going through something? His voice trembled with a fierce protectiveness, and it ignited a warmth inside me that pushed back against the chill of judgment closing in. Maybe there's something to it, someone murmured from the back of the kitchen, a quiet voice, timid but resolute enough to carry. It was Lisa, often overlooked, an unassuming line cook who had always vanished into the background. What do you mean, something to it? Shouted Tom, the puppeteer of derision. Magic? She's crazy. No, Lisa stepped forward, her own brand of courage igniting like a small flame. Maybe you're all just too scared to look for more. I blinked, feeling as if a bridge had been formed between the fractured pieces of our world. There was a flicker of validation in that moment, a tiny ember of camaraderie showcasing the power of vulnerable truths in a sea of rejection. For once, let's not tear her down, Jamie urged, shifting his stance. What if we listened instead? It struck me then that this was more than a moment of reckoning, for might was a collective awakening, a willingness to gather light from the shadows that had stifled us all. I took a shaky breath, the waves of potential swelling within me crashing against the shores of my uncertainty. I don't know what this power means, but I want to understand it, I confessed, every syllable pushing me closer to the edge of possibility. Tom's face twisted in distaste, clearly struggling with the notion that his authority might be challenged. This is all about you. He laughed, attempting to mask his discomfort. You're willing to drag us all into your delusions, and just like that, the moment turned. An electric pulse surged from the pendant, and an intuitive understanding stilled me. There was an undercurrent beneath the chaos, a call to rise or to break. No, I answered, my voice steadier now. This isn't just about me. It's bigger than that. I think we all might be connected in ways we can't yet see. My heart hammered, vulnerable yet fortified, the room fell silent, each face a canvas of uncertainty probing the depths of my claim. Mariah's eyes mirrored the struggles she often masked with disdain, an unexpected flicker of something else anchoring her confusion. Tom scoffed again, but there was a quiver threaded through a crack in his armor. Really? And you suggest what? Us banding together for an imaginary kingdom? My gaze landed on him, and I felt the vibrations from the pendant reach out to the raw places within our fractured hearts. What if this is the start of a new chapter? I said softly. A chance to explore what we've always buried. Behind me, I felt the tremor of support gathered like a tide, small yet unyielding. Jamie stood resolute, anchored by the weight of shared dreams and fears. It was a reminder that hope could break through even the darkest of nights, but just as I felt the threads of belonging woven into the air around me, a twisted shadow fell upon us. The kitchen door swung open, and the harsh, artificial light flooded in. I turned abruptly to see a stranger standing at the threshold, a shadow in a too bright world, a newcomer wearing a sinister smile that threatened to extinguish the ethereal glow of hope we had just begun to forge. Did I hear someone summon magic? He asked, his voice dripped with mockery. The sound startled the air. It wasn't just doubt, it was a foreboding that sent a chill climbing up my spine. Who are you? Maria demanded, her bravado returning, but the confidence of her voice lacked the usual sting. The stranger stepped further into the light, his features sharp and cruel. Just someone who knows a little more about that pendant than you do, he said, locking eyes with me. And trust me, you have no idea what you've awakened. My heart raced, caught between the remainings of hope flickering against the brewing storm. All the connections forged today, the fragile blooms of brightness, could be snuffed out in an instant. I faced him, determined not to retreat into the shadows of fear again. But as he smiled a serpent's smile, I felt a disquieting certainty. Everything was about to change, and some truths were far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The realm of magic I craved to cradle could just as easily become the chains binding me to the darkness lurking far too close. The atmosphere shifted, heavy with the weight of his words and the chilling intent behind his gaze. The laughter that once echoed in our shared sanctuary faded, leaving only the sound of my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. I could feel the warmth of my friends beside me, but also a different kind of fear creeping in as uncertainty cast jagged shadows across the room. What do you mean? Jamie asked, his voice steady but edged with irritation. You think you can waltz in here and throw threats around? The newcomer chuckled, that unsettling sound sliding like silk over broken glass. Oh, it's not a threat, my friend. It's a warning. That pendant has a story, a legacy etched into the very fabric of time, and it's not the kind you want to dabble in without understanding the rules. His gaze settled on me, appraising, as if weighing my suitability to wield the power I had only just begun to grasp. That I straightened my shoulders, bolstered by the quiet solidarity of those surrounding me. The pendant's glow pulsed softly, almost in affirmation, urging me to find my voice. And what makes you think you know anything about me? His smile faltered briefly, a crack in the facade revealing more layers than I had anticipated. I know more than you think, and what's more, I know what happens when one toys with things they cannot control. You've awakened something ancient, something that hungers for recognition. Panic skittered through the air, infectious as it landed amongst my friends like a violent storm. Murmurs bounced around, each voice laden with confusion and doubt. Mariah's bravado wavered as she whispered, "We can just ignore him. He's just trying to scare us. Right? Isn't that just how fear works?" Lisa said quietly, her resolve faltering but her eyes reflecting an undercurrent of concern. It feeds on our uncertainty. The stranger stepped further into the room, closing the distance between us with every deliberate stride. This isn't about fear, it's about survival. You've opened a door, and those who walk through it have a way of drawing the shadows with them. His eyes narrowed. Let's see if you're prepared for what's to come. With that, a flicker of something dark rippled across the air, a pulse reverberating deep within the pendant. The room felt smaller, engulfed by the weight of an invisible presence that could crush us in an instant. My breath hitched, and for the first time, I felt preyed upon, an unwanted spotlight illuminating the chinks in my armor. What do we do? Jamie's voice rose above the rising discord. What we've been doing all along, I managed to answer, though my insides turned. We stand together. As my words hung in the air, the stranger's demeanor shifted subtly, something akin to amusement curling at the corners of his mouth. Such noble intentions. He waved his hand dismissively, and a shroud of energy crackled around him. It will take more than simple friendship to fend off the darkness. But by all means, try. I do love a good show. A tap of energy surged through the air, palpable and biting, and instantly, the kitchen was transformed. The vibrant colors of our sanctuary faded to grayscale, drained of warmth and life. The tables became shadows of their former selves, the laughter of moments ago silenced into a haunting echo. In that moment, I grasped the pendant tightly, its warm glow a stubborn defiance against the encroaching chill. We won't let you take this from us, I declared, though my own certainty was stifled by a rising tide of fear. But it's already begun, he replied, his voice low and serpentine. Now you must decide which side to fight for. An unsettling chuckle reverberated through the disturbed space, shivering the air around us. Each of my friends swayed with uncertainty, caught between the promise of what we could become and the threat of what this stranger foretold. Together, Jamie called out suddenly, his voice ringing with a fervent resolve. We stand together, as if on cue, a surge of warmth flickered from the pendant, filling the room with an ethereal glow that cast the shadows away. The kitchen brightened, colors returning. As if to protest against the darkness encroaching upon our bonds, but in that flash of potential, I noticed something horrifying. The kitchen door swung shut on its own, sealing us in with the intruder. Panic swept through the group, every soul in the room feeling the walls draw inexplicably closer. Now, let's see how you fare against the entity of your own awakening. The stranger laughed, a sound that shattered my fragile courage. I could see the glint of something dark gathering in his eyes, a mirror reflecting the fears I had only begun to confront within myself. A crescendo of energy pulsed through the pendant, vibrating against my heart. I could feel it in my veins, the duality of fear and hope battling for dominance. Together, we had found a light, but at what cost? It was clear that the coming storm would test every bond we had forged and shatter those unprepared to weather such a tempest. I took a shaky breath, the world around me blurring as the looming challenge settled into the depths of my soul. We can't turn back now, I whispered, not yet fully understanding the weight of my own words. I felt the tension coil tighter around us, and as the shadows crept closer, I realized one unshakable truth: we were on the brink of a reckoning that would change everything. And just as I felt the air thicken with expectation, a flicker passed beyond the rim of my vision, an unsettling glimmer darting past the darkness, suggesting that a hidden ally might be waiting just out of sight, ready to strike against the darkness we now faced. The air buzzed with anticipation, each heartbeat echoing the looming uncertainty that enveloped us. The shadows writhed in the corners of the room, as though they were alive, curling in response to the stranger's taunts. I felt a surge of desperation clashing against the fragile hope that flickered like a candle in the howling wind. Do you feel that? I murmured, just loud enough for Jamie to hear. He glanced at me, his brow furrowed with worry, but a glimmer of determination shone in his eyes. The others began to huddle together, hearts racing but resolved to fight, even as the weight of despair pressed down upon us. I don't care what he says, Maria declared, gripping my arm. We've been through so much together. We can handle this. Her voice quaked, but her spirit ignited a spark in my heart. If we sharpened our focus on the strength of our friendships, perhaps we could forge a way through whatever darkness awaited us. Together, Lisa echoed, her voice barely above a whisper, but strong nonetheless. The warmth generated by our collective determination sent a ripple through the air, pushing against the encroaching shadows. The pendant glowed ever brighter, illuminating faces that had been overshadowed by doubt, yet, the stranger positioned himself with an air of triumph, feeding off our hesitation like a predator toying with its prey. Oh, how adorable! He took a step closer, the shadows swirling around him like a cloak. But you are only delaying the inevitable. Your bond may inspire courage, but there are monsters here no love can conquer that I won't let fear dictate our choices. Jamie shot back, the resolve in his voice beginning to transcend the chaos. I felt a stirring in my chest, a courage that swelled with the potential of rising above our circumstances, reaching for the forgotten depths of power independent, but then, in the midst of that defiance, something shattered in the corner of my eye. A glass jar containing the remnants of a long-forgotten prize fell from a shelf. The sound ricocheted through the room, cutting through our tenuous hope. As shards scattered across the floor, an icy grip closed around my heart. What was that? I gasped, my eyes darting toward the point of impact. The shadows twitched in excitement, reacting to the disturbance like a pack of wolves sensing weakness. The stranger's smile widened, as though he fed off that very moment of fear. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming with an unsettling fervor. You see, the darkness will always find a way to expose your fragility. This is only the beginning, my dear. He gestured to the jagged remnants of glass, which glimmered ominously, and I recalled in a flash how the shards held memories of us, laughter, joy, and now uncertainty. In a moment of chaos like this, the bonds forged through comfort can crumble with a crack, he murmured, tauntingly. Will you let your fears splinter you apart? We held on, clinging to that bond forged through shared memories. I felt it in my bones, the strength of those friendships wrapping around me like a protective shield. But as our eyes turned to collect the shards, distant laughter echoed, feeling surreal and misplaced. What's happening? Mariah's voice trembled, eyes wide with confusion. Why am I hearing laughter? Sometimes, the only thing that can drown out the darkness is laughter, I muttered, the veil of sinister energy feeling thicker. I wondered about the power of joy and whether it could serve as our weapon. Perhaps, even in our darkest moments, remnants of light could unify us. A desperate flicker of hope amidst the shadows, but before we could allow that thought to settle, the shadows shifted again, revealing a figure enveloped within the darkness. You seek to use laughter. Well, let's see how far that takes you. The stranger raised his hand, summoning a wave of darkness so thick it felt as if it would swallow our very essence. In that moment, a new figure emerged from the depths of the shadows, cloaked in a glimmer of light. A woman appeared, her presence warm and serene, offering a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding us. Hold tight. Friends, she said with a voice like honey, I'm here to help. But just as her comforting words resonated in the chamber, a chilling realization gripped me. Recognized her face. She was a figure from my past, long thought gone, someone whose story intertwined with my own in ways I had long buried beneath layers of hurt and confusion. Mom. I whispered, a mixture of shock and disbelief flooding through my veins. The shadows recoiled momentarily, a flicker of chaos sparking across the room, as though the presence of my mother unsettled the very fabric of the darkness. The stranger's laughter faded slightly, replaced with disbelief. Oh, what an unexpected twist, he sneered, eyeing the woman with skepticism. Seems they brought a ghost to the fight, but even though I had buried the memories of her disappearance deep within my heart, I could feel a connection surging with renewed energy, strength, courage, and a bittersweet longing to reclaim what was lost. The darkness pulsated and flickered, sensing the resonance of my confusion and fear. What are you doing here? I demanded, yearning for answers but terrified at what they might reveal. Mom stepped closer, her gaze steady despite the tempest swirling around us. I came to protect you, sweet girl. But we need to be careful, the shadows are only the beginning. With her words clinging to our souls, I felt the collective pull of every bond forged thus far, standing together against the encroaching darkness. Yet, somewhere in the chaos, an undercurrent of dread loomed. Did I truly know who had emerged from the shadows? And what would the ultimate cost be when truth finally unraveled within our tangled fates? As my heart struggled to process her return, the weight of uncertainty wedged itself between us, a chasm deepened by years of silence. I could see the measure of every choice reflected in her gaze, the years lost, the questions unasked, and the heavy burden of her absence. Protect me from what? From you? From the dark? I realized my voice broke, as if each word splintered like that fallen jar, creating an emotional mess we were all ill-equipped to navigate. Memories of our lost moments flooded my mind, spilling over like the remnants of shattered dreams. Listen to me, Mom implored, her voice rising slightly above the din of the shadows rippling like an angry sea. The darkness feeds on your doubt and the bonds of fear. It thrives on the fractures in your heart. I am here to guide you to mend what has been broken, guide us. I retorted, a wave of nostalgia mingling with anger. Where were you when we needed you? What have you done to deserve that connection with us now? The stranger shifted his weight, a triumphant grin creeping across his face as though he were watching sparks fly between two kindling hearts. Ah, the sweet remnants of betrayal and love, a potent cocktail of emotional turmoil. He sneered, savoring the disarray. Keep her close, my dear, but know that every ghost carries chains of the past, don't listen to him. Mom interjected, her words a bomb shielding me from his venom. The past is just a map, it shows us where we've come from, but it does not have to dictate where we go. In her earnestness, the room's shadows hesitated, as if unsure whether to absorb her light or slither away from it entirely. My friend's eyes darted between us, the logistical thread of this unraveling reality pushing and pulling, clawing at deeper feelings of loss we all bore. The shadows sensed the emotional storm, their tendrils tightening around us in a bid for dominance. Jamie took a step forward, breaking through the tension. We're not weak. We've fought long enough together. Whoever you are, he gestured toward the stranger, you don't get to define us. Not anymore. He was right, and yet the uncertainty of my emotions complicated everything further. But Mom, what if your presence disturbs the fragile equilibrium we've built? The thought clawed at me. What if there's something to fear even more than the darkness? I can be your light if you'll let me, she urged, reaching out with trembling hands that seemed to radiate warmth. Still, the shadows lunged closer, eager to consume her words. But in that moment, despite my hesitation, I saw in her eyes a desire to mend, a drive to bring back the pieces of our shattered past. The room flickered with palpable tension. Mariah's voice broke through, quiet but earnest. What if it's okay to be afraid? What if facing fear is our strongest defense? She looked at each of us, determination etched into her features. We've faced fears before. We can face them again. A deep breath rumbled through me. Could she be right? I've missed you. The confession burst out uncontrollably, filled with a mixture of suppressed anger and longing. You left without a trace. How are we supposed to trust you again? Mom's expression softened. I never wanted to leave, honey. I've carried the weight of decisions made in the dark. But now my time is short, and the shadows will come for all of us. You have the pendant, it binds us together, but it is stronger than you know. The shadows lurched at her words, attempting to dismantle our fragile gathering. I grasped the pendant, feeling its warmth pulse against my palm, resonating with the emotions tangled in the air. Jamie, Maria, and Lisa joined hands with me, creating a protective circle, weaving our fears into collective strength. Then the laughter returned, echoing through the darkness, taunting, mocking, unrelenting. It was a sound that twisted the very marrow of my bones, stirring up remnants of memories intertwined with anguish. Do you really think your love can shield you? This darkness is vast. With a rush, the whispers grew louder, swirling around us, echoing the names of those we lost and the pain we had survived. You'll all fall apart when the truth is revealed. The stranger sneered, his malevolence palpable. Just as I thought the darkness would drown us, a glimmer of light surged through my heart, fueled by the friendship encircled around me. A flicker of laughter danced in the air, the kind that we had once shared without fear, echoing our deepest joys. We won't be broken, I declared, more sure than I had ever felt. Together, we'll weave a new story. Yet as hope surged for one sweet moment, the shadows rippled, reacting to our unity with an eerie potency that made the walls quiver. The air thickened, and I could hear Mom's voice drumming weakly amidst our collective courage. But the truth, sweet girl, can sting. In that instant, just as I felt our spirits solidify against the shadows, an unseen force struck. A piercing sharpness grazed my side, and as I faltered, the pendant snapped from my grasp, the warmth extinguishing in an instant. The shadows howled in triumph, erupting into a furious whirl around the room. The last thing I registered was my mother's horrified expression, the chaos swallowing the collective light, and the echoes of laughter blending with distant cries for help. And from somewhere deep within the darkness, a new voice emerged, rising above the cacophony, a voice that shook me to my core, shattering the fleeting hope I had fought to uphold. Your truth is not what you think it is, my dear. As the darkness enveloped us, it was as if a cloud had descended, thick and suffocating, wrapping itself around my thoughts, constricting my breath. The laughter echoed off the walls, a remorseless melody that gnawed at my sanity. I could barely comprehend the scene unfolding around me, a cascade of shadows and anguish intertwining with my desperate attempts to cling to hope. Get back! Jamie shouted, pulling me to my feet as I staggered, reeling from the shock of the pendant slipping from my grasp. My fingers brushed the cool floor, desperately reaching for the warmth that had just vanished, and for a brief heartbeat, I felt as if I were being torn limb from limb between the past I longed for and the darkness that consumed us. What truth? I managed to shout, though my voice faltered against the omnipresent laughter. What lies hidden in the dark that you can seize to break us? The shadows stirred, coiling like serpents, feeding off my uncertainty. Oh, my dear, the voice crooned, a curious blend of mockery and seduction, pulling at the frayed edges of my heart. The truth is always there, lurking, waiting in the wings, waiting for you to discover it. Every choice has its consequence, even the one your dear mother made. My gaze shot to Mom, her face pale, vulnerability etched in every line. What do you mean? The tremor in my voice betrayed the deep well of fear that pooled in my chest. Is it about you? About why you left? Stop! She cried, stepping closer, her hands reaching out again despite the encroaching shadows, each desperate step reflecting a deeper turmoil. Please don't listen to him. I can explain everything, but we have to stand together. Her voice trembled as she almost stumbled, the weight of her words hung in the air like a storm pregnant with rain. Small fragments of conversation drifted through my mind, whispers of secrets unspoken. I tried to remember her phone calls that ended abruptly, the hastily packed bags, the tears shed behind closed doors. Each recollection felt like a jagged cut, intensifying the ache in my chest. Did she really intend to protect us, or were there deeper currents of betrayal that had long since run their course? A flicker of movement caught my eye. Maria and Lisa were rallying the energy of the room, glimmers of courage weaving themselves into our sanctuary against the oppressive darkness. We can withstand this, Lisa said, her voice steady, but I could see the tremor beneath her brave facade. There is still light left within us. It was a small comfort amidst the chaos, a tiny ember of hope that ignited a fire deep within my soul. Together, we're stronger, I echoed, trying to drown out the sinister laughter with certainty. I gazed at my friends, the bonds we had forged in the fires of our trials pressing against the dark, yet, even as I summoned every ounce of strength, the shadows pressed heavier against us, thirsting for the doubts we had yet to voice. The spectator in this cruel game relished our strife, each group of shadows feeding off our fears, growing stronger. You think you've pieced together a family? The voice taunted. What if I told you she chose to leave to save you from the very darkness that thrives now? Save us. Jamie spat, frustration boiling over as he balled his fists. The only thing she saved us from was her own cowardice. Mom flinched like a child struck by a parent's reprimand, but in her eyes, I caught a glimmer of defiance. No, Jamie. I have to make this right. She started, a heaviness anchored in her throat. Then tell us. I pleaded, desperation twisting in my gut. Tell us everything, and maybe we can face this together. But before she could respond, the shadows thickened, swirling with a renewed fury as the laughter turned crueler. Secrets don't wash away with bright declarations, little girl. The voice dripped with malice, awakening old wounds that throbbed like open sores. Tonight, the truth will carve you apart, piece by piece. Then a cold breeze whipped through the room, snatching the remnants of warmth, and with it came an indelible chill of fear. The shadows coalesced around Mom, encasing her in a darkness that felt all too familiar, reminding me of the days when her absence had been a gaping wound, festering without explanation. No, Mom. I cried, lunging forward, instinctively reaching to pull her back to me, but at that moment, her eyes glowed like fading stars. I can't hold it back any longer. I have to confess before the truth consumes me too. An almost palpable silence enveloped the room as we drew closer, breathing in the tension. Jamie and the others watched in rapt attention, each of us quietly praying that whatever she was about to share wouldn't be another crack sending us deeper into ruin. "You have to believe me, I did it to protect you, to protect all of you from what's coming," she began. But the shadows writhed, and the laughter crescendoed, drowning out her words, and then came the true shock. Those twisted tendrils began to transform, shifting into forms reminiscent of faces I had thought long gone, lost to time and tragedy. Faces of those who had stood beside us once, now twisted with unfinished business and unsaid words, their hollow eyes pleading for recognition and resolution. As the room tightened around us in a conclusive embrace of despair, the last thing I heard before the darkness shrieked was a whisper, echoing like a stone thrown into a still pond, "The truth isn't hidden in the past, my dear, it's coming for you from the future." And just as that final, jarring declaration crashed over us, the shadows surged, enveloping me, blurring the boundaries between night and day, love and betrayal, until all I could see was darkness. When the darkness set in, it wasn't just shadows that lurked, it was the weight of truth poised to strike, filling the air with a suffocating dread that felt tangible against my skin. I struggled to claw my way through the swirling obscurity overtaking my thoughts, the laughter still echoing, mocking our determination to hold on. It felt like being trapped in a dream that drags you down, pulling you into its endless abyss of uncertainty. That I was suddenly struck by the fleeting warmth of Jamie's grip as he pulled me closer, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "Just breathe," he whispered, and in his voice, there was a comforting anchor, connecting me back to the flicker of hope that existed outside of the nightmare. The shadows writhed beside us, their intensity pulsing like a heartbeat, feeding off our fear. "You cannot face what you do not understand, dear child," the voice taunted again, wrapped in honey and spiked with venom. "But I can show you. I can unravel the past and lay bare the truth like an open wound." The haunting faces twisted in front of me, reflecting the fear I had tried to suppress, echoing the pain etched in my memories. There stood Melissa with her warm smile and easy laughter, now contorted with sorrow. I felt a chill run through me, not just for the loss of friendships, but for the heartbreak of having never truly understood why they slipped away. "You'll learn," the shadows hissed. "You'll learn about the choices made, the sacrifices no one acknowledged." "Choices?" I croaked, the word rising like a desperate plea. "What choices, and who are you to decide who pays for them?" "I am your reckoning," it replied, almost amused, a silent witness to the unraveling of my very existence. "You'll recognize your suffering, it began long before you were born." Suddenly, the shadows surged like a tempest, and screams echoed in a cacophony of anguish, pulling me deeper into the mire. My heart raced and the corners of my vision blurred, but my gaze remained locked on Mom. It was as if the very sight of her anchored me amidst the billowing chaos. There, standing with uncertainty etched into her features, she looked older, worn by the burdens she tried to conceal, and for a moment, just a sliver of time, the storm settled within me. "Keep talking," I encouraged, my voice barely above a whisper, almost like I was bargaining with the darkness itself. "The truth can't hurt more than this." She hesitated, the turmoil dancing in her eyes, but it was as if she had suddenly grasped a thread of determination. "Do you remember your grandmother's stories?" she asked slowly, as though dredging through years of silence. "She whispered secrets, legends of a curse that bound our family." "What curse?" I pressed, urgency punctuating my words. "What does that have to do with us?" She inhaled sharply, and even the shadows stilled as though waiting for her truth. "The curse says that those who abandon their past will see it return in a way they're unprepared for. It's repeating itself, and I've kept it hidden. I thought I could shield you." My breath hitched. "Is that why you left? To protect us from the past that haunts you?" The darkness, as if on cue, shadows began to twist and morph, forming the outline of a woman I barely recognized, a specter of my grandmother, eyes faint yet burning with intensity. "The darkness takes many forms," she proclaimed, her voice a ghostly echo that sent chills through our gathering. "But know this, there is power in remembrance. You cannot escape the shadows if you deny their existence, can't you see?" My mother cried, her voice quaking with emotion. "The only way to survive this is to confront our family's past, to face what we lost." "Why do you think the shadows are here, feeding on our fear?" a wave of resistance pooled in my heart, contrasting harshly with the fear coiling around me. My mind raced with all that hidden knowledge I had sought. Perhaps she was right. But how could we face that darkness together when it threatened to unravel everything? Suddenly, a flicker of kindness emerged as Lisa grabbed my hand, her grip fierce and reassuring. Whatever the truth may be, we're here together, she said, her voice steady, defying the shadows looming near. We have the strength to confront it, but just as hope ignited within me, Mom recoiled as if struck. The shadows squeezed tighter around her, dragging her against her will. You don't understand, she exclaimed, fear lacing her words. This isn't just my past, it's yours now too. And with it comes a choice, a sacrifice that you might not be prepared for. Mom, don't. You can't give in, I shouted, terror pulsing like a drumbeat inside me as I lunged forward. But the shadows erupted, surrounding her like a storm, their laughter mingling with her cries. The truth shall claim what it desires. The voice roared, drowning out our panic. The cycle must continue. As I scrambled to break through the choking darkness, my world narrowed to the horrifying realization that I might lose her again. In that moment, just when I thought my heart couldn't shatter further, the shadowy figures melded with the shapes of my lost friends, their expressions pleading, would it all end in loss again? And in the depths of my despair, I felt the three pairs of eyes locked on me, urging me to remember to break the cycle before it consumed us, but the shadows were relentless, enveloping everything I had known, and I took a staggered breath as the floor beneath me trembled, bringing forth an unexpected revelation. Then came the truth I had somehow always known yet chose to ignore, echoing louder than the shadow's shriek: nothing can ever stay hidden. The real darkness lies ahead. In that instant, just as my heart sank, it became clear, I was not just confronting the past, something was waiting to emerge from the labyrinth of shadows, past my maternal lineage, ready to unleash its fury upon us. It was impossible to convey the enormity of the moment, the unbearable weight of the truth hanging in the air like an unspoken sentence. I could feel my heart racing, the tempo of anxiety matching the chaos swirling around us. Mom! I called out again, desperation clawing at the edges of my voice. The shadows pressed in closer, a tangible threat that sought to divide us, to prey upon our fears and confusion. Go back, she cried, her eyes wide with urgency, desperation flaring as the darkness seemed to reach for her. You must face the truth, and you must do it without me. The shadows twisted, momentarily distracted by her resolve, they slithered like dark smoke, eager to entwine themselves around our bonds. No. I won't let you go again, I shouted, feeling more tears spill over, each drop an echo of my unresolved grief. I battled against the grasping shadows, instinctively reaching for Mom, needing to pull her back into the fold of warmth and laughter, and away from the malevolence threatening to claim her once again. But then, in that chaotic tumult, something shifted. I felt the pendant stir at my wrist, a pulse that sent warmth racing through me. An ancient energy seemed to resonate with my very essence, reinforcing my resolve. It was like the whispers of the attic book, rekindling my hope and courage, urging me not to succumb to despair. Together, I shouted, seeking my friend's hands, feeling the electric connection of our intertwined fingers. We stand together. This isn't just my battle, it's ours. Maria squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce and clear despite the darkness pressing in. Whatever the truth is, we face it as a family. The words ignited something deep within me, a flickering flame brimming with resilience. Lisa nodded, her voice rising above the taunts of the shadows. The past may have its grip, but it doesn't own our future. We have the strength to break free. Emboldened, I turned back to Mom. You don't have to protect us from this, I shouted, the weight of years crashing down on her. We're ready for whatever it means. We can't let the darkness dictate our lives anymore. The moment hung suspended in time. I could see the battle waging behind her eyes, the internal conflict that had likely haunted her for years, and as I held her gaze, I realized, she was just as scared of losing us as we were to lose her. I love you so much, Mom finally whispered, the tremor in her voice the only hint of her resolve faltering. And it struck me then, the sense of belonging we had all longed for. My memories of laughter, shared meals, and joyful summer afternoons formed a shield against the encroaching darkness. With that surge of love, the shadows hissed, recoiling as if burned by our collective resolve. "You can't win." The dark figure screeched, but determination spurred through our linked hands, fortifying our spirits. But just as hope ignited a soft glow, the stranger's twisted laughter swept around us, taunting and cruel. "You think that mere friendship can conquer the darkness inside you? You know nothing of the sacrifices that must be made." "Sacrifice?" I echoed, my voice steady despite the panic building within. "If love means sacrifice, then we must choose that." My heart raced as the clarity struck meth power of our connections, forged through shared pain, laughter, betrayal, and yearning. It was a reckless gamble, but one I was willing to take. "Come," I all but begged, my voice quivering with both fear and strength. "Let's face it together." As if acknowledging some unseen pact, the air turned thick with energy. It pulsed around us, glowing with vibrancy, each heartbeat resonating with echoes of promise and hope. With a shudder, the shadows twisted in rage, fluttering like black flames roaring in protest, but they could not dim the light we had ignited. And then, as if by some ancient command, the pendant burst into radiant light, flooding the room with luminescence. "Witness the truth." The voice of the shadows shrieked as something extraordinary unfolded. There was a sudden rush of vivid colors overlapping, forming the silhouettes of faces we thought lost in time. The friends, the family, those who had once stood beside us. Their laughter mingled with the darkness like a haunting chorus, with clarity poured into every corner of my heart. I felt the weight of my mother's past weigh upon us all, the history spilling from her path even as the shadows buckled beneath our united front. This time, love held us together, and in the face of the encroaching despair, armed with the threads of our shared stories, we stepped closer to conquer the sorrow threatening to engulf us. The shadows screeched, fervently clawing at the light we conjured, whispering secrets designed to terrify. But the radiant light emanating from the pendant continued to grow, illuminating the room in a cascade of the love we had shared. In that powerful moment, I locked eyes with my mother, the truth finally dawning in her eyes, and acceptance that our lives were meant to intertwine, that together we could face any darkness. No longer shackled by fear, the pieces of our lives began to stitch back together. The shadows recoiled, howling with fury, while a single piercing light sliced through, revealing the faces of our past, memories merging with the radiance of newfound hope. We would face the anguish together, each crack a testament of our strength. "Love breaks the chains," I cried out, feeling exhilarated by that truth. "And tonight, we reclaim our narrative." We raised our joined hands, and in that overwhelming surge of unity, we pushed against the shadows until they simply could not withstand the power of our heartbeats reverberating in perfect harmony. And then, in one climactic moment, the darkness erupted in a veil of ashes, scattering into the air like remnants of old ghosts released from their chains. Laughter and joy danced in its place, the air fragrant with the warmth of shared memories rising like hope, cleansing us from the aching shadows that had once enclosed us. As the shadows dissipated into the night, I felt an overwhelming sense of closure wash over me like the gentle caress of dawn's first light. The kitchen came alive, color surged back, laughter spilled forth, and we stood together, hearts still intertwined in the luminous aftermath of our battle. "Let's reclaim our joys," I breathed, surrounded by those who stood beside me. "Let's build new stories," Lisa replied, her eyes shining with newfound determination. "Together," Jamie said, a smile breaking through his earlier tension. "Yes, together," I echoed as I turned toward my mother, the flickering glow of hope illuminating the promise of reconciliation. We might not have all the answers, but we had each other. And in the blink of an eye, I realized that this moment, the epiphany of forgiveness, love, and healing, was the beginning of something beautiful, something we could forge anew. As we embraced, the laughter of a new day spilled through the Kachina melody, echoing through the walls of our shared lives. In that moment, I felt the pain of the past recede, and I knew that no matter how dark the shadows may fall, the light would always be an ember away, proof that love would always prevail. "Together," I whispered softly, a fierce determination blazing in my heart. And there, in the embrace of my friends and the warmth of my mother, I finally understood, You can't cast shadows away, you create light that everyone can share.